The Ultimate Universe is back, baby, starting off with Ultimate Invasion issue number 1. So what better time than now for us to reminisce back on all of the characters that we've seen in this line and in the Ultimate Universe that we fell in love with. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and this is the top 10 greatest Ultimate Marvel characters. At least, according to me, since I'm the one telling you about this. Let me know who some of your favorite characters are in the comments. Number 10, the Maker. The Maker has to be one of my all-time favorite characters from the Earth 1610 reality, which is why I was so excited to start this list off with him. And he's definitely my most favorite villain that we've seen there. I really love the approach they took with him. The Maker, though, wasn't always a villain. In fact, he actually started out as one of the world's greatest superheroes, Mr. Fantastic. That's right, in Earth 1610, one of their greatest heroes is actually one of their greatest villains. Or ends up becoming their greatest villain, I should say. We're talking about the leader of the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. However, in this reality, things worked out a little bit differently for Reed. Instead of ending up with Sue, his marriage proposal to her was turned down. In fact, in this reality, Sue ends up with Ben Grimm, with the two of them even having a child together. While Reed was always somewhat cold and calculating in this universe, it was this rejection, in part, that turned him into a villain to begin with. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our awesome nerdy content. Number 9, Hela. I feel like I'm letting us down if I don't feature at least a few villains on the list, which is why I've also decided to include Hela here. Hela in this reality is not the sister nor niece of Thor, but is instead separate from him and is simply a physical manifestation of death. She does end up becoming involved with him though when she makes a deal to restore Valkyrie to life in exchange for him fighting basically a legion of her undead warriors. Later, she then manipulates him further when she agrees to also return him to life as well so he can be with Valkyrie in exchange for him giving her a child. She also has had a thing for Thor in this reality, putting Thanos and Death's creepy will they won't they romance kinda to shame. I mean, yeah, Thor and Hela is a weird one in our 1610. Number 8, Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde is another character that I just straight up love from the Ultimate Comics, and actually I just kind of love her in general. I think almost no matter what universe we're in. I was actually thinking of some female characters I could put on this list, and oddly enough, I really struggled to think of more lady characters that I love from this line. There's really only a few for me, but hands down, Kitty has to be one of my top picks. Now, why do I love her? Well, I guess I just always love her, but also in this reality, one of the main reasons that I love Kitty is that we really get to see her shine when she steps into the role of leader of the X-Men and, of course, Utopia. She also just does like a bunch of cool things. Honestly, if you have not checked out Kitty Pryde in the Ultimate line, go do yourself a favor, go back and read some of her stuff because it's all pretty good. Number 7, Colossus. Colossus is one of my favorite characters from the Ultimate Marvel Comics universe. Why do I love him? Because I just think his story and his characterization are honestly a bit more interesting and deep than the version that we have in 616. Now, not to knock the main continuity version of Colossus, I also think that version is cool. It's just that this one, I don't know, it feels a little bit more cooler and just a little bit more, like there's just more going on with him. Colossus here is Piotr Rasputin still, but instead of both his durability and his strength being considered as a mutant power related to basically his metal form, he actually gets his strength from substances which he would end up becoming reliant on and obsessed with using. This version of Colossus is also a closeted gay man who ends up dating Kitty to hide his queerness, using her as kind of his beard for a while. Number 6, Hawkeye. Hawkeye, what can I say? I really love this Hawkeye. He serves as one of the versions and takes on the character who would actually go on to inspire his MCU counterpart. And for that, I think I'll honestly always love him. What a cool dude. Well, in the main comic book continuity, Hawkeye is often depicted as being a mostly single, constantly in and out of relationships, kind of a hot mess of a man. In the Ultimate Universe, he's a bit more steadfast and does actually end up even settling down, getting married and starting a family. So if you're wondering in the MCU why he has a family and in 616 he doesn't, well, Ultimate Comics. At least, he has a family in Ultimate Comics for a while before he loses them, after being betrayed by the Ultimates team member, Black Widow. Hawkeye is an absolute badass here, with one of my favorite Hawkeye moments being when he escapes imprisonment by using his own broken off fingernails as basically projectiles to kill the people who are holding him and who brutally interrogated and tormented him. I mean, how crazy is that? Using your fingernails to basically like kill the people that have been holding you. That's a whole other level. Number 5, Thor. I kind of love how they tricked us in the Ultimate Universe with the appearance of Thor, and that's a big part of the reason why I'm including him here. Many things in the Ultimate Universe were radically changed from Earth 616, as Marvel wanted Ultimate Comics to be a completely new and different continuity, with the major differences getting established readers interested in the line because, you know, they want to see how the world differed from what they're used to reading, and also bringing in newer audiences who were often kind of driven away from Marvel Comics because they often felt years and years of continuity made them inaccessible, struggling to understand what was happening or what the stakes were without the context of all that history that had come before. Thor Leaf Goldman, as such, was initially pitched to us to be kind of just some guy who was kind of crazy and confused, basically believing he was the god of thunder, after becoming part of a project which created a suit based off of that myth and legend of Thor. And guess what? Eventually, although we were kind of holding out being like, is that Thor? Eventually we believed it. However, over time, it was then revealed that this man who believed he was Thor, who just believed he was Thor, was actually Thor, which was actually quite a fun reveal because, like I said, so many at that point were ready to believe that Thor Leaf was simply a crazed man acting as our stand-in for Thor in this universe. Number 4, James Hudson. You know what's a weird thing I somehow just realized after years about talking about this character and reading about this character? That James Hudson actually has the same name as Earth 616's Guardian. Huh. I don't know why I never realized that till now, but here we are. Either way though, in the ultimate reality, Jimmy really has nothing to do with Guardian or the Canadian-based Alpha Flight team really. Sorry. Instead, he is simply the son of Wolverine and, oddly enough, Magneto's wife, Magda Lensher. Jimmy didn't find out he was Logan's son till later in his life, after his father had already died. After being given his son by Magda, Logan basically chose to pass on Jimmy to James Hudson, who he fought alongside in the war in Iraq. The Hudsons adopted Jimmy and raised him as their own, naming him James Jr. and changing his last name, of course, to Hudson. Number 3, Spider-Man. Obviously, this list would not be complete without Spider-Man. For this point, we're focusing on Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610. Why did I love him so in this universe? Well, I think because he was updated for a modern era, and we actually got to see him more as a kid. In fact, the Ultimate Comics actually made me expect to see more of Peter as a youngster in the main continuity when I went all the way back and started Spider-Man from the beginning, but I find on Earth 616 he was kind of made to grow up a little bit faster by comparison there. Also, the fact that this Spider-Man does end up seeming to die young makes him a more interesting and tragic figure. Of course, we later learned that he did in fact survive his death, but even then, he chooses to leave the Spider-Man mantle behind and pass it on to another person, so there's more of a sign of progress and succession in this reality attached to Peter, which personally I love. I wish we had more of that in the main continuity. I wish we let Peter grow up in the main continuity and just have a family and do all that stuff, but hey, we got MC2, so I guess whatever. Number 2, Nick Fury. Obviously, this list would not be complete without my guy and yours, Nick Fury. Nick Fury from the Ultimates became so iconic that his design actually inspired the real-world casting of Samuel L. Jackson as the always 10 steps ahead head of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not only that, but this alternate version of Nick Fury would actually also inspire his original 616 version to be retired and replaced as a character. In fact, in the modern day, I'm sure many Marvel fans don't actually know that Nick Fury was originally white in the comics. Yep, initially in the comics, we had Colonel Nick Fury, who while also sporting an eye patch was a very white man. However, the Ultimates version became so famous, and especially thanks to his adaptation in the MCU, that Nick Fury Jr. from Earth 616, who was styled after Jackson's interpretation of the character, actually replaced his older counterpart in the main comic book continuity. Number 1, Spider-Man. Miles Morales is actually one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man in general, so of course he's going to make our cut. If the Maker is the poster child for our villains from the Ultimate Universe, then I would say Miles has to be the poster child for our heroes. Well, honestly, it's between him and Nick Fury. I think Miles is a more hero than Nick is though, and obviously I really love Miles, so I decided to give him my top spot. Fury has done some more morally questionable things in his life in the name of the supposed greater good. Miles Morales ended up joining the reality of Earth 616, which we know as the main comic book reality after his Earth was destroyed in the incursions, and the world was rebuilt after the 2015 Secret Wars event by primarily Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four and Molecule Man, with some added assistance from Franklin Richards and the rest of the FF. For showing kindness to Molecule Man by giving him a the cheeseburger that Miles apparently carried around in his suit when Molecule Man asked him, he not only gave Miles a home in the Earth 616 reality, but also brought all his family back there to join him, including his previously deceased mother and his uncle. Well, that's about it for this one. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.